be starting right now. So we're going to start right now, and Jackie will do an intro, and then we will start some sponsorships.
Good evening,
Here we go.
Miss Heaven.
Did you?
Good evening and welcome to the Poetry of Justice show with Jackie Ray Phillips on YikesRadio.com and AccelerateDradio.net. Here on the Poetry of Justice show, this is where social consciousness meets the arts. And what we do is we select topics that spark the interest and awareness of social diversity, ranging from arts, entertainment, and social justice at large, leaving our listeners thinking and saying,
YikesRadio.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, those are the sultry sounds of my mentor, ladies and gentlemen. That is the Mr. Kevin Nash. And Mr. Nash is the owner of this proprietorship here at Accelerated Radio and YikesRadio.com. And I just love to always give him a shout out because were it not for Kevin and his dream child, it would be impossible for me to do what I so love to do here on Saturday nights, ladies and gentlemen. And then I give a very special honor, respect, and shout out to Miss Lori G, aka the benefactor here on the show tonight. Lori G, how are you?
I am doing well.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Lori also represents Gingy Productions and Entertainment Company. So I like to give a very special shout out. And then to some of our new sponsorships, G Babies Catering, ladies and gentlemen. That is at G Babies LLC. Thank you so much, Rashid. You want to check out Chef Mac. And he's most notable on Instagram. And that's GBABBIESLLC, ladies and gentlemen. And then we like to give a very special shout out to who we call the Man of Steel here on the Poetry of Justice show. That is WMPJ Steelworks. So we'd like to give a very special shout out to his loyal sponsorship to us here on the show. And then last but most certainly not least, also piggybacking on that, we like to give a very special shout out to APS Muscle Cars. Now, over at APS Muscle Cars, there's been some expansions going on, guys. So there's a new facility in Signal Hill, California. So if you happen to have like some of your big toys, maybe some Harley Davidson, some low riders, or just some fast hot rods that you may want to store, or maybe you even want a custom one built, I want you to check out Memo, ladies and gentlemen. MEMO with APS Muscle Cars. And so we so thank you for your sponsorship here on the Poetry of Justice show. Jackie Ray Phillips, YikesRadio.com, SouthernRated.net. Lori G, the benefactors in the house tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And we've got a beautiful, beautiful show lined up for you tonight. I am completely blessed and honored because whom which we have with us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I honor this woman. I respect this woman, and I'm so excited to learn more about this woman and very, very humbled to be able to introduce this beautiful woman to our listeners here on the Poetry of Justice show, as well as to her listeners that she has coming with her tonight. And this, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, is the beautifully talented and educated Miss Heaven Gilmore, ladies and gentlemen, of Ozone Gold Radio and Ozone Gold LLC. Welcome tonight, Heaven. How are you?
I am wonderful, Jackie. Thank you so kindly for that introduction. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am. We hear you perfectly. What about things on your end? Do you hear us pretty okay?
Picture perfect. Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here.
Me too. Okay, Lori G's got some tech stuff going on for us. One moment, Heaven. I think you've already got some people in the audience asking about you, girl. In that Zoom room.
In the Zoom room. We started the Zoom room, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Heaven, how are you doing tonight, beautiful lady?
I am tired, Jackie. But I'm blessed. I'm very good. We got a lot going on. And so every minute, every day accounted for. But with that being said, here, healthy, and glad to still be moving forward with everything that's going on.
And I'm just so happy that you are blessing your time with us tonight. I just like to give a little bit of backstory. I mean, just a little bit, I promise, Heaven. And then I'm going to give everything to you. And we're just going to dive in and be authentic and organic and just have a really, really good time. But I just wanted to share how I got to meet you with our listeners when we were over at, we were on location, and I always get excited, Miss Heaven, when we're on location. And so look at that. We were on location and was blessed to meet you and who you represent, because Sissy and I, we're understand, but there's so much more I want to learn about you, Heaven. And when you decided to bless us with this interview, we are just really, really honored. So thank you so very much. And tell us a little bit more about Miss Heaven Gilmore. And I know I'm leaving out one of the names, but those are the most popular.
Those are the most popular, the most key, most important. My husband's sitting over here. He's like, yeah, you better remember that, Gilmore.
I know.
Jackie, I wouldn't really know where to begin. We met on set for a concert out in, I believe it was Bellflower. And I believe there were the Temptations and the Mary Jane Girls and Ozone, and there were a couple of other bands that were performing. I think they had a Temptations review performing that night, right?
Yes.
And so I met you, obviously, because you were out there on the spot, as you should be. And I got a chance to get you and my band Ozone together, and you guys did an interview that night. Yes.
No, it was so exciting. We were on the ground, girl. We were like hustling. Seriously, I was like, oh my God, we didn't know which way to go. And then we were blessed. And then we saw the gentleman sitting in their van, Heaven. And then we were like, okay. And then my camera guy goes, just go for it. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm going to tell you this, Heaven. These gentlemen, as beautiful as they are, they were not making a move. They were not going to say boo without Miss Heaven Gilmore. They're like, nope, sorry, can't talk to you, can't look at you, don't say nothing to me. You need to talk to Heaven. So I just appreciated that. But so Heaven, tell us about you and Ozone, and how does that work with you and the band, if you don't mind?
Absolutely. Ozone is one of the bands that I manage. They are the band that we're focusing on right now. And I say that because we focus on all of the musicians that we work with, but Ozone has a new single that we're putting out, and we have a new tour that we're working on. So for all intents and purposes, that is the major overhaul that we have. And Rodney Trotter and Charles Glenn, long dear friends of mine. We do tons of business together, and we came together and decided that, we needed to put a lift on the music scene, change some things, create some new opportunities, and there you have it.
Absolutely. Well, I just absolutely adore the word. Rashid, you're gonna tell us what you want us to do tonight with all the work that you've done, and we're gonna allow you to lead and do what you want. But we were just gonna put a little something in the background for us, a little jiggalette, and just play a little bit of music, just to kind of get warm and fuzzy. Is that okay with you?
That is totally fine with me. Right.
So let's Florida. How long when you were in school in Florida? Can you tell us about your history there?
No school in Florida. I actually spent most of my school years in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
So I'm from a little town called Ellenwood, Georgia. And so represent Ellenwood very hard. The stories that come up out of that place and the talent. But I came up in Georgia, originally from Illinois.
Okay.
And I've lived some of everywhere. So Connecticut, North Carolina, Memphis, Florida, Illinois, Texas, you name it. I've crossed there a time or two, I'm sure.
So what makes you decide, I'm going to just get up, I'm out of here, I'm going to pack my bag? Or was it career related, or sometimes a little bit of both? How did that generally work for you, Heaven?
I moved by spirit, Jackie. I'm one of those people. My mother she knew I was different, right?
Okay.
So a lot of people, we raise our children and we tell them exactly what we want them to do, right?
Yes.
And we set a lot of their paths and passions up for them, right? And then later on, they resent us. They're like, oh, that wasn't for me. Why did you hook me to that? My mother was quite opposite. If I came up with an idea of something I wanted to try, do, she was all for it. She flight attendant, insurance agent, had a group home for kids, I mean, the list goes on, Jackie. And I did that starting out. I mean, I was 17 in corporate America,
Wow.
So, and when all my friends were either still in school or headed to college, I was downtown working for the stock investment company.
Wow. So you
So-
already just went straight to the game. What part of your family that you would say that you got that drive and ambition and that hustle from?
Who you been talking to, Jackie?
No, you just look. No. I know. Look, again, a band full of strong musicians. We're gonna say boo without us speaking to Miss Heaven Gilmore. So I think that tells me who you are. Beautiful.
I come from a very diverse background. I guess the best way to put it, my father, what they say, Papa was a Rolling Stone, that was kind of the setup. I'm the baby of 12 children, 11 of which still living, Father was last of a dying breed. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
He was highly respected and just marched to the beat of his own drum. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So that's father. Mother's a little bit more corporate,
Okay.
She's very structured. Never can get her to tell a lie, get her to do anything slighted, by the book. But even being that way, she understood that if Heaven needed to do something different, she needed to do something different. And that really is what got me here,
Okay.
Jackie. Just that freedom to get engaged into situations and use discernment, and let that discernment work out, right?
Yes.
So this industry is quite different than anything I've ever done, and you name it, I've done it just about. I guess a bit of a hustler, right?
Right.
I definitely come from that background. I no shade to it. You have to know how to get through certain situations. In the music industry, I've never been an artist. I'm not a singer, a dancer, a writer, a producer, or anything like that. My stepfather was very musically inclined. As a matter of fact, the man looked like James Brown, danced like James Brown. Okay, sounds like James Brown. When people would see me growing up in Ellenwood, they say, "Oh, that's James Brown daughter."
I feel good.
That's right. So I grew up with good music. I grew up at a time where music still had meaning, and the intention was still to have a good time. And so, later, I think I got engaged in the music industry very early on. I think the first group that I ran into or scene that I ran into was being down at DARP, Dallas Austin Recording Studios was probably the very entry of coming into the music industry. And even at that time, it wasn't as a musician. I was an insurance agent at the time, so I was doing insurance with these guys. And but that's where it probably began for me. Just having the opportunity to get engaged rippled into another opportunity and another. So for me, it was always the businesses that I had that was kind of partnered with either the labels or the sports company, because I've crossed over not just musicians, but I've been with Hall of Famers, some of the most elite entertainment attorneys and agents and things, and had them representing, previous business that I had years ago. And then the same thing yielding over into the acting scene. So I've engaged and done work with many, executive producers and well-renowned producers and things like that. So over the years, a lot of people come into this business and they take the opportunity that's presented to them. I guess I've always yielded on the side of caution. And so, a lot of things that maybe were opportunities for some, for me, they weren't, and I guess over a period of time, just making the correct decisions, right? People built a trust, right? So when there was a task at hand, it was granted, right?
Okay.
Task at hand was to keep this music going, right? Is to create that cornerstone of the music industry that keeps our original music alive, right?
Yes.
And then helps to create a platform for new original music to be created, because people don't think about music in terms of what music actually is. Some of these musicians, or who we're calling musicians, they don't know what key they're singing or playing in.
Isn't that interesting?
Okay.
How did we get there? How did we get there, in your opinion?
Jackie, you're a spiritual person, so I think that some things are beyond our control, right? It's time, right? Time has to evolve. Prophecy has to pass, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that there's things that were just going to come to play, and we just never knew exactly what they were going to be, right?
Yes.
And in order for that to happen, right, there's things change. For us, it's always going to be that constant need to suppress, right? That's going to try to overcome us, stumble us. And
so true.
I think we groove too easy with things that we should probably, take a second look at. Instead of going along with things just because they're cultivated, being willing to say, you know what, I can't get along with this one. You know what I mean?
Right. This
but
is gone too far.
The system has us afraid to make conscious decisions anymore. I'm not one of those people that was ever moved by whatever else is going on out there. Okay. If it's right, it's right. It'll work. If it's wrong, it's going to bear bad fruit in the long run. Okay.
That's so true.
So, and that's how we move.
I love
That's
that.
how we move, get greater.
Right? I know. I just think it's just awesome. I want to talk to you about that logo for Ozone Gold Radio. How does the radio portion come into all of this, if you don't mind, Evan?
Absolutely. What's the better way of making sure that we have that music available? Time is moving by fast, don't you think? Did this week go by fast for you, Jackie?
Yes, it did. It's just like it's spinning out of control. It's insane.
We want to ensure that there's a station somebody can go to, they could walk away from it and their child can still be sitting there.
Right.
A lot of times we are still in the groove of what is going on. And don't misunderstand, Jackie, I listen to my trap music. Okay. don't misunderstand.
For sure.
But I come from a time period, and I come from a background where I'm filtered, right?
Yes.
I don't receive the same thing that, say, my 8-year-old may receive from things, right?
Yes.
And the scene out here ain't the same scene as it was when we were coming up. So now you putting these words out here in a scene that is already counterproductive for our youth. And that's where my radio comes in at. It's not for everybody. It's for people that's looking for consistency. Okay.
No, I love that, because when I first got into the game here with Kevin Nash, he's one of the best to do it here on the West Coast. I say the best to do it, but that's one thing he taught me. Very first thing he taught me was consistency.
Consistency. Our terrestrial stations, most times they don't have tons of control over the rollout. So I can be in the car with my mother and, and we could be just fine. And then the next minute it's like, whoa, let me change the station. Mom ain't ready for all that. She
Yeah.
don't want to hear all that no more. So this is just a station. We're international. And I think right now I think our largest followings are sitting equally in China and the UK.
All
Okay.
right.
And our bands, our musicians have a huge fan base. Motown has a huge fan base overseas. So that was to be expected. That was to be expected. That's our baby. OG is not for Original Gangster. Um, it's just ozone gold, right? It's just worldwide wealth. Before I came into the radio, in fact, before I went to being a host on the local radio station, I was always into investments. Retirement services is my corporate background. And I kind of shifted over for a long period of time to building wealth, trying my best with bullion, right? And so a lot of people have saving accounts, and I do too.
Mhm.
It's just there ain't no paper in it, okay?
Right. Gotcha.
So during that, the gold company that I was in business with, they were doing conventions. And so I was going to bring Ozone out and have them to perform for the gold convention. And a lot of that got paused because of COVID. And no sooner than it paused, the radio station asked me to come over and host on their radio. And probably not even within a split second thereafter, I knew that I needed to shift gears and control my own lane there. Okay. So during that process, I was approached about pretty much I don't want to call it a movement. I want to call it a plan of action in order to slow down some of what's going on in the music industry. Just try to create space for actual musicians. It's so hard for a real musician to almost get that record label deal or to get their music to the radio stations. And so I figured, if I'm just as large, then they have somewhere to go to. They're not sitting out there on the outskirts looking for that placement.
Right. Is this that be due to streaming services? Is where we've seen a little bit more of that impact and that shift? Would you say, Heaven?
I think that technology is a two-edged sword, right? I think that there was a time period where musicians they benefited from their artistry more so than what they do today. I believe that there are a lot of smoking mirrors as to what the real key is for musicians that are looking to get into the music industry. I believe that there's been so much, I gotta watch my tongue here. I believe that there's been so many false ads or ways for people to get out there and get their music, that trying to get people to dig a little bit deeper about what it actually takes is so hard to do. Because honestly, some people are in the music industry 15, 20 years and they still don't quite understand what it is that they're missing and why they can't lock into that infinite wealth. And that is why I even, I've left from working around the entertainment industry for many, many years. I fell off and went over into another area for at least about 9 years.
You did.
And had promised myself that I wasn't going to be probably coming back. But then again, some things are just made for you. So I'm here, right? And so that wasn't the end actually, but the musicians have to begin to look at things on a per level
Mhm.
Basis, and they have to think about things so far outside of just the realm of being able to be a good artist that they, we have to start there with education. And that's where I put the majority of my focus with everyone that comes over here with us. We don't take a primary interest in an artist in terms of trying to take over management rights and things of this nature. We're able to provide to a musician everything that the major labels provide to them without actually taking that. We're able to make sure we act more like an insurance policy for a musician that is signed or independent or up and coming. And we facilitated a way to be able to do that. And I don't think that it was something that could never be done to begin with. I think it was just a matter of it that never being the intention, right?
Yeah.
So, and for us, it is the artist. Coming from retirement, Jackie, what's the purpose of a 401k plan? Why do you put money into retirement, right? Royalties is infinite money.
See, we've got to get.
How do we get pulled out of our own infinite money? How do you go create something and then somehow you no longer get paid for it?
Right. So we have to think differently.
We have to think differently,
particularly now post COVID. You know what I'm saying? We've got to find new ways to, like you said, to educate ourselves, to take care of ourselves, to move forward in a more positive direction. Lord, I see your face. What are you thinking, beautiful?
Oh no, I'm just listening. So inspiring.
I know.
Heaven, just listening to you,
I know.
making that transition and being open to receive something that was very different from what you were doing before, but making that connection, right? As you say, in terms of what's the goal for retirement, right? It's to have that steady flow of income and wealth.
That's right.
And sitting here, what keeps bouncing around in my head is that you are excelling in a game that has typically been for men.
It is.
And so I'm very interested to know how it feels to be a successful, let's not forget that part, a successful female, as well as the intersectionality of being an African American female in this male dominated industry.
Ooh. This is, so I actually grow a few chin hairs. You might not be able to see those in the camera.
Silly girl.
Okay. But in all seriousness, there's going to be some people that's going to watch this and they're going to know exactly. It's so many people around the world, they know me from different realities, right? I'm a licensed esthetician, right? So some people remember me from owning beauty salons, right? So that was the lady that made me look good. No, that was the lady that sold me insurance. No, that's the flight attendant. No, that's the lady that, And so, but the core of who I am, I think, is what allowed me to be positioned to be here. First of all, I have 8 or 9 brothers. I can't even remember, and I'm talking about personalities for you. My father, I'm not, if it was okay to say, can I say goon?
Sure,
yes. OG, triple OG.
There you go.
So I come from that cloth, okay? And then I come from another side that presents it well, but but don't get it twisted, right? And for me, it was always working that bottom to the top of every position. So men they're not just dominant in this position, in this world, honestly, most people, if you go to the mall, they rather have the male esthetician do their eyebrows than the woman. Okay. My biggest competitor was a guy. Okay. Wow. And so that's always going to be, I think, a challenge when we're up against our male counterparts, because it's a dominating scene. In this world, it's rather easy. If you want respect, you got to command it.
That part. Yes.
You can't run around and demand it. You have to do that by establishing respect for yourself. There's a lot of ways that a lot of people get to certain places. And I wasn't one of them. Again, I didn't take a lot of money. I didn't do strange things for change. In fact, I did everything less than probably stick my middle finger up in certain instances. And I think with that,
for sure,
even the men have to understand you're born of a woman.
Yes.
So eventually, at some point, you're going to have to let a woman do what they do, because women, as I was told by a very special person, women breathe life. To take us off of our track is to not lift the man. Okay, if my husband's sitting over here to my right now, if he stopped me, well, things might slow down. You got to let a woman do what they do, because that's what we do. We're nurturers. We nurture life.
So true. That's so true.
Yeah.
That is so very true. So very true.
I didn't threaten nobody to get here, though. I promise you.
I know. But sometimes, you just gotta do what you gotta do. You know what I mean? Like you say, you just set your mind to something and you just be relentless and just don't stop.
I think being real about your intentions gets people a lot of places. I think a lot of people go about trying to engage in a world, and they put on this foresight, and quickly people that's been around in the business, they know someone who's been here for a while, someone who doesn't. With me, I guess I a lot of my wins came out of ignorance. I just literally was asking some real questions because I literally just didn't know, and so when I presented myself as someone who just wanted the right thing and was capable of producing on top of it, then what's the holdup? I've been, I've had situations turn away from me, but at the same time, God don't close the door without opening the window. I ain't seen it happen yet.
Absolutely.
So true. There's always a way. He says he'll always make way. There's always a way out.
He will always find a way and guide your path if you
and
listen.
Even when I thought I didn't want to be in the music industry or in the entertainment industry, for all intents and purposes, you guys know how crazy it can be, right? But then again, who's to say that you can't bring about a modicum of change in some areas, right? And the only way you can do it is if you're there. So I think for me, I had to be pulled out, presented back into the situation in a different facet. I don't think I could do anything other than what I'm doing right now.
You just know it.
Exactly.
Say, Lori, I'm sorry.
So Heaven, I am just so enamored with you and your story and your presence, right? And so the platform for the POJ show is all about community. It's all about empowerment. It's all about helping, right? So I know we have some listeners tonight that are interested in how you continually reinvented yourself to be successful in so many places.
In so many ways.
And in so many ways. Do you have can you share or take us along on that journey? Where did that courage, that confidence, was there courage and confidence?
I started writing a book many years back. It's a documentary on my life. The name of the book is Through the Fire. Okay. And it talks about, having to overcome abuse, those things that you hate to talk about. I, for certain, and Jackie, I'll be the first to tell you, all the years I've been here, I've been able to keep, on the DL, and I don't come out, and I don't know the next time that I would. I chose to go ahead and do this interview with you because I really loved your spirit. But I'm a really private person, so I'm gonna give you all the good stuff because I don't know that I'm on.
When you gonna do it again?
All right, out here again, okay?
Listeners, this is a POJ exclusive.
I told you guys it was exclusive interview.
Yeah. So growing up, I had to overcome not a lot of physical abuse, but mental abuse. Okay. And so in the home with my stepfather, it was just one of those scenes, right?
Mhm.
And my mother at the time just simply wasn't able to afford to just jump scene. And so she came to me and she said, she started telling me how we were going to get through the situation. She ran game down to me one-on-one, like, look, when you go to school,
Hey, you already know the word, right?
And we had a whole little rundown on how we gonna get through this, and so learning how to not necessarily run from abuse, but how to outbeat it was one of the things that I say it was a bittersweet part of my life because I'm probably still suffer some PTSD somewhere from some of the things that I've been through, but at the same time, when you can sit in a room full of enemies and they never, and not flinch, then you're at a special place in life that a lot of people can't get to. And I was told growing up by him that I wasn't smart, I wasn't gonna be nothing. Okay.
Sorry to hear that.
Don't shoot, because all of what was going on there every time. So his daughter became a flight attendant. I was still quite young and actually afraid of heights. She'd gone to college, and got her degrees in aviation. She became a flight attendant. And I remember, hearing them go on this rant talking about, telling my mother, oh yeah, in heaven she ain't gonna never be nothing, and and how smart his daughters were, and they don't went to school. So I had a son at the time, and I got so pissed off hearing them. I seen an ad in the paper, and it said that Delta was hiring at the time. Flight attendants come down to this job scene. So I went down there. It was crowded. I looked over at the
okay, you go, heaven, girl. Yeah.
And I seen a flight attendant over there. She stepped off. She went to the bathroom. So I got on her trail, because I couldn't wait in the line. And when I got in the bathroom with the young lady, I got complimented. I told her hair was beautiful, something about her eyeshadow or something. And she asked me what I was there for. I told her, I was there to be that flight attendant, but the line was too long. I got a son. I got to leave. She said, oh, just go on over there to the airport and tell Virginia, whoever I sent you. And so when I got there was nobody there. I met the lady. She, the training that you had to go through. I believe at the time it was about 2.5 months, nonstop train, 7 days a week, 11 hours a day, test every day. If you, and so I think the class started with about 50 people, and there was about 11 left, and I was top of my class. I think I flew for about 6 months and quit. But the point being, don't tell me what I can't do, because your daughter went to school for years for something, and that's no problem. And I think I went and crash course that, killed that, and was on to the next thing. And I think that was you have to take everything that people put out there in the world, and you have to decide for yourself what you're going to do with it. So if yesterday you was a maid, but today you want to be what, go do it. Who's to stop you? And if you don't like it, change it, but you have to not take to heart what the world wants of you. And if that means that you have to, shed your clothes and change your hat a few times to decide what that's going to be, that's what you do. For me, I knew what side of the cash flow quadrant I needed to be on. I didn't want to exchange my time for my money for the rest of my life,
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So I had to do things to prepare myself for that rollout.
Right.
I knew, you just know, and you have to just get to a place where you're happy. I worked some wonderful jobs. Some of them I left, some of them they fired me. And a lot of times, I started
you
doubting myself. I'm like, wait a minute. But then you have to look at things a little bit different. This is not 20 years ago where if you go up in a corporate office and you shine, they're going to award you and give you a raise and all. No, you go up in corporate America now, especially one of us and know too much. You just intimidated somebody. Now we got to figure out how we can slow you down.
Right.
Okay. And one too many instances of that, I had to sit back and think, girl, how many people you gonna sue?
Wow.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't
similarities.
Okay, and that's how I got here, because I don't lay down for nothing. You be done barked up the wrong tree, because I come with a real nice grin on my face, and then they be like, "Oh no, this lady," and it's like, do things by the book.
Right, right. Do the right thing.
You know what, Heaven, since this is the POJ exclusive, I just have to know, what did your stepfather say when you told the family that you were a Delta flight attendant?
Oh man, it is. It's so funny because that's one of the many probably, bubble bursting situations that's probably happened over the years, but I can't recall what he said. I could just recall being gone,
Exactly.
I did that.
I did that.
That is a beautiful story.
That is a beautiful story. That is.
I wanted to ask you though, Heaven, about just the mental health part of things. How did you overcome some of those, struggles, if you will? What, how did you kind of locate that? I know a lot of our listeners, Lori and I, we do lots of shows on the subject matter. And I just want to know for myself, because when I have those moments, so I'm just gonna put it out there.
Well, quite honestly, and I think it would be good for anybody to hear, I've gone through, a crazy road. I've been married a few times. It's my third marriage. I've had, the woman's horrible tales, what goes on inside of a not so good marriage, I think that with abuse, for me, what allowed me to put things in their proper place. It's only abuse if you label it as abuse and accept things as abuse. It's abuse if what somebody has done has actually affected you, right? Okay. I chose not to consider myself a victim simply because I rose above somebody's attempts. Okay. I know what you was trying to do, and even back as a teenager, when the attempts were being, made, it got to a point where I puffed my chest back, because now I knew why you were threatened by me. There was underlying reasons. There isn't, and that's the thing, is that there's always underlying reasons. Everything that somebody is doing to someone, it's either built off of one of those 7 deadly sins, but that's their own issue, you see. And when I understood that that the Creator had a plan and a way of handling things, and I started seeing him come to my back. Hell, I seen some of my enemies pass away. I said, wait a minute, I ain't even gonna argue with you no more, because I don't want, I would hate for God's wrath to come upon you. So I'm gonna act like I didn't hear what you just said to me.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay.
Heaven, you are speaking to my sister.
Oh
Oh my goodness.
This is my life. This is my life, Heaven. What's your birthday, Heaven? What month?
July 5th.
Okay. Keep
Yeah.
it moving, girl. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Look.
My apology.
2002.
There you go. I like that.
7'5".
That's it. 2002. So,
Oh my God. Heaven, guess what, gorgeous? I've got some amazing new talent in the house, and I just want everybody to be able to be blessed
with you and by you and all of us. So what I'm going to do is just let everyone know who you are. Is that okay with you, Diva?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm just going to give a little bit of history, just a little bit to our newcomers. And then that moment, then I'm going to allow the newcomers to tell their names and who they are. And then we're just going to continue this collaboration. Does that sound
Sounds
cool with you?
good. Sounds
Hey,
good.
all right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So are you all okay? Karen. Sharon. Okay.
Sharon.
God, you're gonna kill me. Charyn. Yes. Hi, Sharon. And you, my lovely sir, tonight. Your name.
Jordan.
Look, Jordan. See, your picture was a little bit different. You had your little face down. Okay. Jordan Bridges.
Yes.
And we have
Sharon.
Sharon Harris. I know you're such a good. Okay, but there's some similarities here because Sharon Harris. I just want to let you know. I know you do. You are a part of the music industry, so tonight we're doing film and music. But let me just tell you how blessed and honored I am, and we all are tonight because have you heard of a band by the name of Ozone? Do you remember the band Ozone? Okay. Well, guess who I have on here? This is the manager and so many more things. That's just a millisecond of all of the things this woman is and does. And she is none other than the Miss Heaven Gilmore. She is
Nice to meet you.
she is the owner of Ozone Gold LLC tonight. ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
So I'm super stoked.
Love it.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
So you're gonna tell us a little bit about your story, Miss Harris? A little bit, yeah, just a little
boy,
intro
yes.
so that
Just a little intro.
please.
Okay. So Sharon Harris, I'm from Mount Vernon, New York,
That's right.
AKA Money Earned in Mount Vernon. And I work in the music industry. Started off as a touring musician, went into music education. Currently, I do logistics and tour management for the illustrious, iconic Macy Gray. Amen. Yeah,
Oh
so
my
that
gosh.
keeps me real busy. We have a blast.
That is a mouthful.
And I also do a lot of music career strategy. So
Okay.
I mentor a lot of musicians. They come to me with not so much of how do I get into the music industry in terms of publishing and things like that, but I really focus on mindset. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you clear of any blocks? Because musicians are a lot of times really sensitive about their art,
Mm.
about themselves. I get calls all the time. My stuff is great, but I'm scared to let anybody hear it. Okay, let's sit down and let's chop it up and let's work it out because
Okay.
you have something to offer and your stuff is as good as anybody else's. But if you don't let anybody hear it, nobody's ever going to know.
Right.
So let's get it happening.
What do you think about that, Heaven, when you hear this? How are you feeling right now?
Oh, man. It was probably not 2 months ago. I was at a store speaking with a potential vendor, and a gentleman standing behind me says, may I ask you, who are you? And so I told him, and he said, you know what? You wouldn't believe it. If you heard me rap, you wouldn't believe I could sing. If you heard me sing, you wouldn't believe I could rap. And I said, okay, well, the only way I'm gonna know is if you go ahead and sing, And I generally don't have that rollout, right? So we have A&R that normally goes through all of these things and makes those decisions. It was funny. He told me, well, the same thing that she just brought out. I would like for you to hear my music, but I don't want to, lose proprietorship over it, right?
Mhm.
And I'm thinking to myself, what went on in the education of for musicians, where poor guy has all the talent in the world, and he's standing with a radio station owner and says, I don't know if I want to let you hear. Okay. Now, I helped him out with that thought. I gave him some education right there on the spot about that, right? Because the one thing that we have to do when we hear these comments is we have to educate within the same moment, because there's a lot of ignorance, and some people depend on our ignorance, right? And we have to do better when we run into any situation, even if it's not one that's going to cultivate anything for us at the moment, but spreading the truth is what we have to figure out how to do a little bit more of. So with this young man, I just quickly explained to him, if a radio station is wanting to hear your music, honey, that's where you want your music to be. That's who you want it to be. Yes. Some people got to pay for the radio station to listen to them.
That's true. Yeah, speak. Speak. But before you
let alone get your music played on the radio, let alone get your music locked into a rotation. Come on, the struggle is real out here. So if a radio station is interested in you, and I'm speaking to all musicians out here, know when to hold them and when to fold them.
Amen. Preach.
Know when to be ignorant now.
Okay. And while we're doing that, you can also tune in on YouTube. Stream live on YouTube at the POJ Show, Poetry of Justice Show with Jackie Ray. How's that?
Yes.
Kevin Gilmore.
That's right.
All right, Sharon. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What I want you to do is to take out your Palm Pilots, guys, and go ahead and log into YouTube if you have it down. Bless you, and thank you so much. I really appreciate
But
it.
Heaven, I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad she said that, because I'll tell you, when you ask about what goes on with musicians, so I went to one of the most prestigious, actually the most prestigious music school in the world, Berklee College of Music, which is great. I'm so grateful that I went there, but I have to tell you, when I came out, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I could play, I could read anything. I could tell you, how to spell any chord. I knew my theory, harmony, back and forth. But in terms of the communication, in terms of what to do, in terms of being a musician, that's the thing that was missing.
Okay.
And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because I realized, after teaching for over 20 years, I've seen so many, I've seen that the people who don't want to hear they don't want anyone to hear their music. And it's like, okay, come on. If you want to, you're either going to do it or not.
Right.
You're either going to do it or not. That's all there is to it. So let's step it up.
I feel like I better do it right now. I feel like I need to do it right now.
And what exactly am I going to do as you play your music and we stand here on the phone? I'm just going to sink it right on into my finger and steal everything, And so you're right when you and Berklee, awesome university, and I'm completely the opposite there, self-taught, self-trained, and but the thing is, I look at things and you send your kids out there, you spend out $100,000 on it. And then you come out and you still got to go to a whole nother school. Now this called the School of Hard Knocks.
That part right there.
Now they taught me the administration. Now I got to go out here and figure the hustle out.
So there you go.
Let me tell you,
baby.
one of my taglines is, I went to the School of Hard Knocks, so you don't have to.
Yeah.
So when people come to me, I'm like, look, I was there. I was at that School of Hard Knocks with my degree, but dealing with self-taught musicians, and had to understand with all my knowledge, how do I integrate with the self-taught musicians? It wasn't until I moved to LA and I was able to work with musicians on a different level, who were the Berklee musicians, who were like the Ricky Minors and the Randy Jacksons. And, and also I was the only female keyboard player to tour with Barry White.
Yes.
So the only female keyboard player to tour with him from 95 to the end of his career. And then I knew I had arrived when I started doing that tour. I was like, oh yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Those are great accomplishments. I know you have stories on top of stories.
I know people want
You
to hear
are
my
reading
story.
my
The
mind,
exclusive.
Heaven. I'm like,
Oh,
come
you
on,
know.
Sharon. You gotta
You
give
don't
us
want to hear
one.
my Barry White. I do have
Exactly.
stories. I got a lot of stories from, just from working with a bunch of different people with Barry White. I'll Be Sure's first record. I was on an Effect Mode and and it's just there was so much, but so many lessons I learned when I just think of what stops people from moving forward and seeing, Al. I mean, I was there when Al got his deal. I was part of that whole process. So that was really amazing to see and to see how much heart and soul and passion he put into it and to get in there.
Yes.
So
Wow. Jordan Bridges, how are you tonight, sir?
Good. How are you?
We're well. We got all these ladies in here, and Rashida's like, "Yeah, Jackie, what do you want from me now?" How are you tonight, sir?
Doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. And so we got a little bit of film into the house tonight. Yes, sir.
Yes, you do.
Some writing, some screenplay, an avid reader from childhood, wrote your first play at the age of 6. Look at you just showing out, So let us know. And we've got, again, the lovely and beautiful, talented Miss Heaven Gilmore with us via Zoom. So please let us know a little bit about yourself, sir.
So I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. Moved out here a little bit over 2 years ago, and I'm just been out here working as a screenwriter. I've had a few feature films, or a couple of feature films, get produced. One's in production right now. I think you were in one of them.
Is that me and the general star?
That's Children of Elena is the name of it. Yes. Yeah.
That would be me, the arresting officer. That is I.
I saw you, the sexy officer.
Did you see me trying to be cute, Heaven? Did you see me?
You were cute. That was too cute.
Thank you, Hans. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Please.
Yeah, so when I got here, I was able to meet up with a director by the name of Brandon Woodring, and he introduced me to our executive producer, Wesley Page Jr., who's the founder of this new production company called New Production. And I've been working closely with them, and it's just kind of helping build that production company. And we've been making these projects, and a lot of things in the works. So it's just.
I know. I'm super juiced. I'm just like sitting on the sidelines myself, guys. Like, ooh. I'm gonna have a speaking role next time. I'm just calling it into existence, ladies and gentlemen. I am on my Heaven Gilmore. I'm just out there gonna make it happen, Sharon. We just gotta make it happen. Mine.
Absolutely. That is awesome.
I know. We're in your next movie.
Right, all that. You hear it? Did you hear it? You
We're
say
your
right
next
now,
movie.
low key. That part,
I know.
right?
I'm
Don't you
speaking
see?
it into existence.
There you go.
If you want Macy, let me know.
Uh-oh.
There you go, Sharon. It's a barter. We're bartering now. There we go.
That's what we have to do.
I would like to have Macy
I
Gray
tell her
out
all
on
the
this
time.
tour.
She knows I put her out every chance I get.
Hey, what'd you say, Heaven? I'm sorry, gorgeous.
I said I would love to bring Macy Gray out at some point on this tour, for sure.
You got to tell us about the tour. That's what I was just going to say, because, I couldn't say anything. I had to be closed mouth for advertising. So
Mhm.
are you ready to talk about it, or do I need to
Oh,
my mouth shut?
sure.
Okay.
Sure. The tour. So we are doing a U.S. tour right now, the OG Ballers Walk concert tour and festival. We have just about everybody that you can name from the Motown roster on our feature lineup. And we're starting this tour off. I think we got Darren Motamedy on the jazz. No, that's the second show. I think the first show is going to be in Peoria, Illinois, and that's coming, I think, October 30th. And that is Bobby Rush, and I think we're Ozone, Slave, Darren Motamedy, the original Lakeside. Then we're on into Tampa.
Star-studded. Listen to that.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And we're bringing out, just about everybody you can name, you guys. So the event is a hybrid event. So we're streaming this nationally, internationally. It's an opportunity for vendors, any major vendors out there that really want to get that global reach. This is the best opportunity for them. This is a situation where they get their own virtual booths if they're on location with us, and they get both the physical location and a virtual location. Everything that can be done from a physical standpoint can be done virtually. Private one-on-one conversations, 200 people in your booth at a time shopping. It turns into a QVC thereafter. So for 30 days, your virtual store is open. So if you want to, do discounts for the world, here's a chance to have the best audience in the world at your store. And for vendors that are worried about, the outcome and wanting further knowledge, we'll be following back up with all analytics on all customers. So for a vendor, if they had 2,000 people show up, we'll be contacting them with that list of all of the contact information for everyone that showed up. And so it's a really grand opportunity. I really suggest people go out and find it. If you go on social media, Eventbrite, again, it's the OG Ballsworth Concert Tour and Festival. It's not one to miss. This tour is going to get greater every single show. And I mean, we ain't holding back anything. And we're only touring the originals, you guys. So you don't have to worry. Every time you come out, you're going to see the original bands playing. And so that's what we got going on. So far we are I think we're in Peoria, Tampa, Atlanta, LA, Vegas, and there's some others that are coming quickly. We plan on touring all the way in through to September of next year. So it's a lot. It's awesome though.
That sounds like a lot. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Heaven. I appreciate
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Heaven, did you have any questions for our panelists tonight? I just wanted to, because we have this background, just wanted to know. Because, you have that radio show and all, darling. So just thought,
I guess I'd like to just kind of pick you guys' mind and ask you, what have you seen maybe over the last 10 years or so as far as changes in the structure of the music industry, particularly? What changes have you noticed? And was it for the better, or do you see things getting more complicated?
It's different. I'm not going to say it's complicated. It's just different. And I think it's going to take a different skill set. And what I'm seeing is, like, for instance, streaming has really been taking over. And with streaming, a lot of bigger artists, they're not making as many royalties because of streaming. Streaming doesn't pay as much. However, this has been just great for independent artists. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that people don't realize, that even during COVID, the music industry saw a boom. It's increased by 1.5 billion. Wow. In terms of revenues in the music industry overall. So some things are shifting, of course, especially because of COVID, because but also, like, in the whole last 10 years overall, social media has really been taking over and is giving artists a platform to be seen and to be heard. So people who normally, couldn't get a record deal or anything like that, all they have to do is go on TikTok, they go on Instagram, they can grow their following, they can put their music on Spotify, on Pandora, on Apple Music. So I think that's a really, really great thing about the music industry. It kind of doesn't solve some things, because there are some things that went away. Like, for instance, A&R is not as prominent. There used to be more of an artist development element in the music industry, that, the grooming of an artist isn't there. So it's trying to find those other avenues. I think that they exist, but I think it's bringing a lot more opportunities. So
I guess my next question would be to that response. Do you think that is the case in for the entire music industry, or do you think that is the case in our culture in the music industry?
Well, I think when there's part of the music industry that I think here in the States we ignore is the global reach. So I think globally there still is a boom when it comes to music. I noticed that there aren't, of course, as many tours. That's the main thing that I think is been detrimental to the music industry. There's not as much live music. There's not as many tours. So that's the one thing that I'd love to see more of, like more musicians actually playing. But I think, you know, if you're looking at R&B music, soul music, there are a lot of new artists. There are a lot of artists, and some of them aren't even new, but we're hearing about them more. You know, they've been around for a long time. So I think there's a lot more visibility, and there are, you know, a lot more choices right now. So, but then, you know, you also have, you know, like some radio stations, depending on where you are, some radio stations may only play one format, or maybe only a few artists at a time, rather than, you know, so I think it's more difficult for artists that don't have a traditional record deal to get on a radio. I think there are opportunities there to kind of create some type of stream for these artists to, you know, to work and, or to just be heard on a radio station. So I hope that helps.
I think that the first thing a musician should look at when they're aspiring, whether you're established or not, actually, because you're never too late to do things differently, but taking a clear picture or taking a clear look at what your options actually are in the music industry. So we got one way. Okay, if I'm good enough, I'll get signed to a major record label deal, which is what most people think they want to do, right? I just want the bag, and let me get to that bag. So, okay, maybe you good enough, and maybe I'm gonna call you up because I'm the head of the major label, and I'm gonna say, hey, Lori, you're the bomb.com. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna sign you over here. I'm gonna cut you a check, Lori, because I know time's been hard. Here you go, there's 1.5 million. I hope that'll hold you. In the meanwhile, I need you to do everything I need you to do. Okay. And by the way, Lori, I'm gonna need that money back. Okay. And don't rush it to me. Give it to me nice and slow, because I want to add something else on top of that money and make sure I'm set to receive from now on. That's option number one. You know, and that you know, that option ain't so bad if you want to, you know, just have a big house and drive around a little bit. Ain't no wrong with that. You know, then there's that phone call, and I call you up, Lori, and I say, hey, you're the Bob.com. Here go a check for $750,000, and I never call you again. And that's just because, Lori, you really standing in the way of Jackie, and Jackie is my main focus right now. So can you just sit down and get out of everybody's way? Then you know, you can go to an indie label and you can get some success there. You probably get a little bit better communication there. Okay, but then that ain't good enough for you because you real smart. I'm just gonna be independent because I can do all this by myself, not even understanding you ain't never independent. How are you independent and you still depending on the distribution platforms to put your music out there?
How does that work in that relation? So it's not, is that just a cliche? You know, what is that, Sharon? What is it, ladies?
Absolutely.
Well, you know, I think when you're looking at all these different options, it's really tricky now because it's not traditional record label. I mean, there are very few major record labels that are giving out those deals, you know, right now. So I've dealt with the smaller labels. I've dealt with the larger labels as well. And you're absolutely right, Heaven. When you think about the communication, it could be different. It could be a lot more intimate with a smaller label, but the smaller label may not have all the moving parts that you need in terms of your distribution, in terms of your tour support, in terms of, you know, your marketing dollars. And there are people who it's just like, okay, I'm gonna pay you this, and you're just gonna kind of whisk you away into the cornfield sometimes, you know, depending on what's happening. But you know, and there was a point that I wanted to bring up. Oh, I think it's really important for artists to think about having multiple streams of income.
Okay.
And that's something, even if you have a record deal, depending on what your depending on what your status is and what your footprint is, can you get into acting? Can you do commercials? Can you do voiceovers? Can can you do product placement? Can you do any branding? Can you build something that maybe it's not related to music, but you can push a product or something that can help with your streams, your financial streams? Because I just think the money that used to be there in the 80s and 90s is not there.
It's just not.
So you're not getting those deals, those multi-million-dollar deals anymore. It's gone, but it's somewhere. It's somewhere. It's because remember I said that the music industry increased 1.5 billion over the past year, right? So it's somewhere.
Is it in streaming?
There's a lot of money in streaming, but it's still not getting into the hands of the artist. So the artist, so it's kind of like the Wild West right now.
Wow.
It's really like the Wild West right now, and that's what we have to think.
Wow, you're just
Yeah.
out there
So
making
then
it happen.
would you say then that the part of the problem therein lies with everyone choosing to be okay with digital distribution across all platforms?
I don't know. I think it's really individual, because I know some artists, when they look at how much am I actually making in digital streamings, it's not a whole lot. You've got to get a lot of streams depending on what level you are to really generate something. I think Pharrell had a big case where he wasn't making a lot of money, and he was very vocal about it. But I'm just getting X and X amount of dollars, and it was really not a lot considering how popular his music is. And so for him to bring that up, I think that's really important. It's like, okay, well, where is the money going? Because somebody's making the money. It's just not the artist, so how can they do something a little different? And yet they don't have to be okay with streaming. So if artists want to sell their record independently, there are a lot of artists who sold their records, they cultivated their own crowd. You can certainly look at, okay, I'm selling I'm selling my record for $10, right? $20, whatever it is. I need 1,000 people at $10. I need 1,000 people at $20, 10,000 people, whatever, to hit the figure that I want to hit. That's going to make me comfortable. Whether it's $100,000, $1 million, whatever it is, you just have to do the math. I think it's more about doing the math right now than anything else.
Wow.
I think people need to start looking at the fine print.
Hello.
I think that people need to start
That's
looking at the fine print and being okay with making conscious decisions. Here's the thing. Common sense is not that common no more. Okay. And so we have to just think about some very simplistic things. And I'm not going to say I know what the answer is. I'm going to say I do have the answer. I can say that comfortably, but I'm going to say that for all intents and purposes on this thing, the thing that people need to think about, and Lori, you hit right on it. Is there any policing of the distribution platforms? In other words, if the royalty payout sheet that they send to you is not accurate, how do you know?
That's a good question.
That's a very good
Supposedly
question.
it is.
But no. But wait a minute.
Right.
But wait a minute. Now, if Lori calls up Heaven and says, "Hey, Heaven, I want you to be my distributor." Okay, Lori, I send you over a sheet and say you only made $2 this month, okay? But you're suspecting because you got 50 friends that said they just went and bought from me this music that I'm telling you a lie. Will you actually have ground level capabilities to be able to take action? What I'm asking is, has anyone done their due diligence to look at what the backline is of the distribution platform? Basically, who's licensing and how are they connected? Do you guys know that the distribution platforms are now, they're synced by the email server that you use? You know, there's so much and who gets paid in the back of that rolls the money rolls up. But the thing is, you get blind. Okay, you're putting music into a cloud that is saturated by tons of other music that's not backed by that $500,000 to $1 million marketing budget that the labels will put behind you, okay, in order to get you on the top of those major playlists, right? In order to get you that global exposure, in order to get that overnight success. To have the distribution platform is to have bread without no meat. You're sitting, you're putting your stuff, and then you look at your SoundClouds, and you don't get your first royalty after you get 5,000 downloads. You better have 5,000 friends, and then you're still only getting a fraction of that. And then if your back end administration ain't all the way to the T, then you still ain't never going to see none of that. The thing that you have to do is be willing to do things just a little bit different. And I'm not saying don't put your music on Music Digitune, Core, do whatever is in your spirit that you think is going to get you there. But then again, I know a lot of people who spend more money uploading than they ever got in a check.
Right. And I think that's where you have to do just due diligence. That's just due diligence on whether you can have a team or you know somebody, because everything has to be audited. Everything has to be audited. And then you also do get the analytics. So you get 346,000 streams. You got 2 million streams over here. And they should have just a clear table of what the deliverables are when you're looking at how much you'll get per, once you hit a certain threshold of streams, And
then you got to have enough know without to keep up with that times the 249 platforms that they put you across. So I hope your keeping skills.
I'm exhausted.
Oh my God.
It's a lot. It is a lot when you're an independent artist. And again, I think you have to look at, how can I do this, that it works? Because to me, something like that, streaming to me is like the icing on the cake. It's like, it's advertisement, it's marketing, it's helping to get my name out there. And if I were an artist, that's how I would look at it. Like, maybe my music could be used for, licensed for commercials or for movies or film, TV. So that's a much bigger look, and it's cleaner when you're looking at that. It's also cleaner when you're looking at, is my song going to get picked up and someone's going to do a cover of it? Because that's another thing when you're looking at music publishing and people really don't understand that, what is the value of a publishing deal? It's okay to get a publishing deal, but if you can hold on to your publishing, that's really going to be the best thing, because you're going to get that money. You're not going to have to worry about money being recouped at that point. Right. And then if somebody's covering your songs over and over again, I think about Burt Bacharach all the time. I think about, Laura Nyro, Wedding Bell Blues and all the stuff that was covered that she did, that she wrote for so many people, from Blood, Sweat and Tears to Crosby, Stills and Nash, covered all of her music. So when you're hearing these covers, that the composer, they're making money off of that. And they're making more money if they hold on to their publishing. Publishing is like real estate. It's that intellectual property. And people don't understand that about the music industry. So when Michael Jackson bought the Beatles catalog,
that was
major.
Yeah.
That was major.
Massive. They've been living on that since. Huh?
Yeah. I think somebody else has it now, but still, that was a major move.
Yes,
and that was a very shrewd move.
Wasn't it?
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
We all know the story behind that.
Michael,
but even, Bob Dylan, I know his catalog just sold for a lot of money.
Yikes.
So if your catalog, so say somebody says, hey, I'm going to give you $3 million for your catalog. Right? When somebody says that to me, it's like, if you have a diamond ring and somebody says, oh, I like your diamond ring, I'm gonna give you $3,000 for your diamond ring. That's telling me that diamond ring is probably worth about 10 to 12,000. Somebody's gonna make money somewhere off of that. You're getting a cut of it. But this is going to go on. It's going to go on in perpetuity. It's going to go on, past the time that you're here. And there is a statute of limitations when music can become, public domain. So yeah.
didn't
So
know that.
that's So when there are some songs, like a lot of classical music, it's public domain. There's nobody's collecting royalties from Beethoven or Schubert or anything like that. And I think it's kind of filtering into some music from the 1800s, maybe early 1900s. I can't remember exactly what the timeline is, but at some point it does become public domain.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about, every time I play this, I have to have royalties, and there are even some books that are public domain, like the Bible is public domain. Nobody's collecting royalties on the Bible.
Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate it. What are you thinking about when you hear all of this, Jordan? I'm
Jordan,
just
what's happening in
All right, what's going on?
Is the
Yeah.
story a little better there?
Yeah, Netflix, Amazon, what's happening? But versus,
Do you have a show happening? Do you thinking about a show that we can all star in?
I know that part right there,
That
Sharon. Just go
part,
straight
that
to
part.
it.
I'm like, yeah.
You know, heaven, just straight to the jugular. Go for it.
No, I was actually just thinking more about kind of what you all were going at about the streaming and everything, because I feel like you think it's like different for like every genre. Like somebody that's doing like soul music would have to look at the industry a little differently than somebody who does rap music or
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know like also with the streaming, YouTube is a big thing too. Like because YouTube is different way. I feel like when you get paid more on YouTube, it's like your own YouTube channel as opposed to like going through like Spotify or Apple Music, and you gotta pay them a lot more. But I think YouTube is more like your own like kind of the master. Especially you guys still have to pay like YouTube, but I know that music videos are a good way to like promote too. People can find people through the avenue too. That's what I found out. So
Did you say you want to shoot my next music video? What did you say?
And then did you also say that you needed a roadie? Did anybody say that? I just said. Oh, did I? I just thought I heard that.
I did too, Jack. Yeah. I did.
Yeah.
I have a question.
I think there's a lot of difference between what happens in the pop, hip hop, R&B culture than what goes on, say in your country and rock side.
Jordan, I had a question. I heard on the news, and I don't know all the specifics about this movie Black Widow, right?
Mhm.
And
Okay.
that she is suing the makers of that because of the whole streaming component, which happened with the Disney Plus thing, right?
Oh, okay. So I got information. about
Uh-oh.
that.
Yes.
So Scarlett Johansson was suing Disney because it wasn't in her contract, because in her contract it was stated that she would be receiving revenue from the theater release of the movie. What they didn't anticipate was COVID. So they never reworked her contract to include ad revenue that was coming from the distribution on Disney Plus. And since it was being streamed on Disney Plus at the same time of it being in the theaters, more people were on Disney Plus, meaning she was losing out on money.
Yeah, things make more money in the theater in the first place.
Right.
Yeah. So too. I think some people have followed her lead too. I think I've seen other actors kind of suing in the same fashion because
Really?
stuff got put on like
Now
streaming
that's
services.
something that you should consider negotiate
Wow.
when you're doing your deal.
I think like probably nowadays because things are kind of going towards streaming. I remember people thinking that the theaters were kind of going out slowly before even COVID happened. So I think COVID happening kind of hurt the industry a little bit even more. So
Yeah, definitely COVID definitely put a significant nail in the coffin. In fact, it's not completely dead yet, but it's like has a literally arm, leg, torso. The only thing that's surviving is the head right now.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to let you know we have another beautiful individual to join the cast of us tonight, guys. We have the talented Miss Chloe Monsieur, actress and writer in the house tonight. How are you, lady? I'm great. Thank you so much. Yeah, a little closer to that mic, Chloe. And so you are in great hands tonight on the Poetry of Justice show. We have very talented individuals on the panel tonight. I just wanted to let you know that via Zoom, we're doing a little bit of a hybrid. We have the lovely and talented Miss Heaven Gilmore. Heaven Gilmore, so many things, one of which
Hi,
is
how are you?
She is the founder of Ozone Gold LLC. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of tidbit there. And then to my immediate left, we have the amazingly talented Miss Sharon Harris is in the house tonight. And music is her industry background. And then, of course, we have the very handsome and talented Mr. Jordan Bridges in the house with us tonight. So I just wanted to give you the panelists. You have Rashid. He is the engineer, runs this train here. And then my gorgeous sister right here to your right, Miss Lori G. So
Nice to meet you.
how has acting and film been in your life right now? How are things for you? Black woman, Hollywood.
Now
What do you
it's
see?
Great.
Okay.
Before it was a bit of, I mean, obviously there's always going to be a struggle and challenges, but COVID hit and it was like, I was scared to death. I didn't know if I was going to ever make any more money.
Mhm.
But then after that, I'm a mother as well. They were looking for real families who were in the same pod. And so my daughter and I got to work together on commercials and that was
See?
great.
Oh my gosh.
And then, you know, being a Black woman is lit. So I think everyone is starting to
Amen.
recognize that. And so they're looking for us. You know?
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Like, yeah,
white
yeah,
American
yeah.
theater, we see you.
What are you thinking about this, Heaven?
She couldn't be more correct. I'm telling you, COVID, if you sustained it and you decided to pivot and outbeat what was going on, you team winning. And I think a lot of us did that. I think we found a way. When our backs are up against the wall, you guys, we will figure a way out. And it's just such a blessing to hear that so many people found a way to work around this. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we were just getting headphones for the lovely Chloe. That's all.
Chloe needs headphones.
I got it. Hold on.
Well, she turned on her phone live. We were just gonna get those headphones for us. That's all. So we're gonna get those going. All right. Thank you so much about them. Just having a little technical difficulty moment there, but we just wanted to make sure that everyone's included. So we're just gonna do a little bit of sanitizing. But yeah, right now it's Black Girls Rock, as they say. What do you know what I'm saying?
I know. It's Black Girls Rock, Black Girl Magic. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
we're doing
right?
it. We're doing it. You know, we're
Absolutely.
doing it.
What do you think about that, Jordan? How do you have you in your world? Have you seen anything changing in the film industry with regard to our ladies and people that look like us in the films?
I think so. I think you're definitely seeing like an upping of that for sure. I think it's a great thing. Of course, you know, like cast them in my movies as well. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also a
Love it.
good time for creatives in general. I mean, not just Black
Yes.
women, but people want to hear about Black stories and want to see it and want to relate.
People are
And-
new.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Fresh.
even the networks are now like, who's got something? Just give it to me. I
Right,
don't
right.
care if you're a big name or not. So I think we got to take advantage of that because
I do too.
now's the time.
Now is the time. What are you thinking, Lori G, tonight? You've got a lot going on. I see you maneuvering. We've had some. I'm sorry. What was that beautiful?
I said, no, I just got some, we are COVID compliant here.
We're making sure we're COVID compliant.
It's all clean here.
But you know,
So
I
we're
have some
distracted.
very
I
specific
apologize.
questions, ladies and gentlemen. And these questions come by way of the Lord Rocca. And I just want to go ahead, Lord, if we give a very special shout out to Lord Rocca.
Rocca.
And Lori, if I want to just, Lori, I'm gonna let you do that. If you could just give Heaven Gilmore a little bit of the history of the crux of what we do here and Lord Rocca and what he's brought to our show here in the Poetry of Justice.
Absolutely, guys. We here, I think we talked a little bit about the platform. Heaven, you and I talked earlier about the platform for the POJ show, where the Poetry of Justice show is really committed to supporting, uplifting, and empowering the community, right? So it gives us a platform to give advice, to share stories, to celebrate all of you, right? Heaven and her tenacity is incredible that she keeps moving, keep going, right? The incredible things that all of you are doing, that we have a platform to do that. And so we've been on a journey for 5 years. We started really small with my sister's dream. I was the roadie, and we were just chugging along, right? Chugging along. And so we've had different renditions of ourselves, and we've been blessed enough that our paths crossed with Lord Rocca. And Lord Rocket is just an incredible, you've got to come over into the frame.
I know,
He's
he's
an
over
incredible
here.
man.
Yeah.
And he has been expanding our reach, expanding our network. He got me a job as an extra in 2 films. Look at that. I'm gonna be speaking soon, y'all. I can feel it. I can feel it. But this brother here, he stepped up and said, "Hey, we can do some things together." So through his connections and through his networking, through our heart for the community, and guys, just I'm an old head, and I was tired of hearing bad stories.
Yes,
Bad
yes,
stories
yes.
about people that look like us.
Mm-hmm.
We need to celebrate, talk about good stories about who we are as a fundamental people, right? And that needs to be uplifted. That we're not just robbing people and high speed chases and all that craziness. And this man here put the P in positivity. So the POJ show is just soaring, and a big part of that is because of Lord Rocket's commitment. Say hello, something. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been a journey, and the POJ show has also helped elevate myself. And I've always wanted to be part of radio, and they gave me an opportunity. Just how they credit me for giving an opportunity. Excuse me. They gave me one, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, you're welcome.
yes.
We love you, Lord Rocket.
And I have to say something about Lord Rocket.
Okay.
AKA Dan.
AKA Danny. Danny, how long
We
have
learned that
I,
on the
how old were you when I met you, Danny? 12? 13, 14? 16.
My gosh.
16, I have watched him grow up. I've always just been so impressed by him because he's so thirsty for knowledge, and he always made conscious decisions and choices. And he knows, where we were together when I was working with him, and as when he was a youth, and what we came out of, I should say. And it was rough. It was really, really rough. But I saw him even back then make conscious choices. And I saw him, just fight and to becoming a man. Just watching him become a man has just been such a joy. Every time he would reach out to me and say, Sharon, I have a question about this. I have a question about that. I've always been so impressed with him. And I just never really had to worry about anything with him. He's like, I'm expecting big things from him.
Absolutely.
Because he's got it. He's a thinker, and just amazing energy.
And he's a doer.
Yes.
And
that's
You wake up and you don't have
He
to ask.
applies.
He's done. You're like,
He
oh, you did
applies.
all of this
I know.
overnight? Oh
Yeah,
my
it's
God.
like, oh yeah, it's just the passion, and it's just when I talk about, habits, people and habits, your habits will get you far, and I always tell people, it's like, people will forget what you say, but they will remember how you made them feel. So always kind of go in and think about that. And when you walk away from somebody, you haven't seen them in years, and they reach out to you, and you're like, I remember that person because how they made me feel, or so, and it's mutual. It's like you always want to leave a good impression on people.
We do.
Yeah.
Absolutely do. Heaven, you were going to say something when we were speaking a little bit about Lord Rocket, so please come in and chime.
just that's an astounding, thing to hear. I think a lot of times we become fearful. We let people set a tone for what we can say, what we can do. And especially in this industry, this is one of those businesses where, you get trained without anybody telling you anything, right? You just from watching the ripple down of what happens to the next man or the next, lady. But I think that when you have a calling and young people know it, children even know it sometimes, exactly where they want to be or where they should be. And just to hear that this young man is, always persevering. That's what we do as a people. That's what you do, Jackie. That's what you all have done in 2020. You guys are in the music industry and the film industry, and part of your everyday job is to be creative. And that didn't stop because of a natural disaster. You just kept doing what you naturally do, and that was become creative. And you were able to be more creative than what you were ever able to be or knew that you could be, because you never knew that you were going to be faced with so many blockers in front of you. But yet you were still able to be creative enough to figure out something to do or how to pivot or how to overcome this. And we need to continue this. I know that we were talking earlier about it being a great thing that there's so many opportunities out here for independent artists. I want to be clear on something, and I'm not saying this to tick anybody off. Yeah, it's great that there's a larger space out there, but it's not a larger space for musicians. There is a difference between a musician and an influencer. And we have more influencers out in that space than what we actually have as musicians. And with more influencers being in that space, then where they are placed at in that space directly affects and impacts whatever it is that is being cultivated within that sound, because it may not be positivity that you're hearing, okay? And so now there's an influx of the ability to put more negativity into a direct market of people. And so there was a time, rather, where we had to show intelligence in order to be able to be in a certain class of people or to have certain doors open up to us, okay? And now what we're given the opportunity to do is dumb down and I'll pay you to do something funny, okay? And that is not where we should be. Right now, we have young, talented people choosing to dumb down because there's not enough openings for you to remain intelligent and still succeed. And if you go along with that gimmick, then we are sure to fail and fail rapidly if we don't stop that in its tracks. What should be is distribution stores, CD stores, and stuff like that. People should still be having to go line up and hope that they got in that line to get that music, because those artists knew just about how much money they was gonna get because there was some accounting there. Okay, and so there are different ways to take a look at that, but I always look at it from the head of the industry down. Is it in my interest for the people in the rap industry to have great management?
Never thought about that. What about you? What do you think, Jordan? Go
I
ahead.
think, and especially in rap, I think controversy sells. So for them to not be managed well, it's kind of like good for business, low key, like if negativity.
Exactly.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, keep doing stupid stuff.
Exactly.
Hurry up. And in fact, you ain't doing this quick enough, you know?
That's crazy. Oh my God.
Okay. And we allow ourselves to get placed. I tell you what, and I ain't gonna be about this. I'm gonna say it's supposed to be a point in time where you're supposed to understand that you are in the entertainment industry. You are no longer supposed to be living the life that you're talking about.
The differential.
What a concept.
Somewhere somebody thought that you could, you know. I mean,
it
the
goes
things that we do.
in film and television, like and it started with reality TV.
Ah,
Things
speak
started-
on it,
yes,
sis.
And that was the strike.
Yeah.
Go, Chloe, what?
To dumb down yourself because it's controversial.
Mhm.
You know, okay, well, when they fight on TV, our ratings go up. So
Right.
now
Everybody's gotta
Mimi
fight.
has to be loud and ghetto and throw stuff at people, and that becomes who she is, when really that wasn't.
Right.
But that gets her paid.
Right.
And then when the younger generation sees that, now that's what they want to be because they want to be paid.
Right.
So everybody's acting.
Let me ask you
cool.
something.
Yeah.
Do Miley Cyrus or any of these are controversial? Do they gotta go on the stage naked and twerk in order to
They don't
sell
have
their
to show
album?
that. No, they don't. They don't have to shuck and jive.
I'm trying to
No,
figure out, do they
and
gotta go
don't.
get implants and they behind and all this here?
Girl,
Fix a
Lord
flat?
Jesus. Lord
They gotta
Jesus.
go put flicks. No, let me ask you something. Dolly Parton drops a new album today. If she drop a new album, is her fan base gonna call it old school?
Hmm.
They're going to be excited about it. But, you know, I mean, it's kind of like a double-edged sword because the community, that's what they're trying to identify with the community almost. And if the people stop buying that or stop buying into it, you know, the artist starts losing the money, maybe there's a wake-up call. It's like, it's really about economics because who's it benefiting?
Right.
You know, the behaviors aren't benefiting
Anyone.
anybody. And it really, and this is part of the reason that we end up, especially as people of color, as Black people, especially in America, we end up having trouble all over the world because it's a stereotype. And it is that shucking and jiving, and it is that Amos and Andy, you know,
Stepping and
it's
Good
yeah, step
Lord.
and fetch it. And it's all of that.
Oh,
It's all of that.
God.
It's blackface. It's
Ugh.
blackface in it, and you know, you can't even rub this makeup off, you know,
Right.
and you know, but it's become, somebody's got to stop it because someone's country, there's a puppeteer somewhere, right? And you're getting these people who are like, you know, I don't have any money. This is a way for me to get money. Oh yeah, now I'm going to assimilate into this lifestyle that's not even really my lifestyle,
Right.
right? And then when it starts getting real, when your buddies start getting shot up and stuff,
Mm.
then you're like, oh my gosh, now I got to change something. Now I got to become an actor.
Right.
Preaching Tupac's life, right?
But it filters people into our communities, right? And this is where a huge section of our urban community, particularly in our Black and brown areas, get their modeling. And so they're modeling, what is it? The Atlanta women, the ones that fight each other all the time.
All the time.
You know, the hip hop ballet. Yeah. Modern hip hop, that's what it is. And so they're walking across tables, slapping people in the face and doing ridiculous things. But that's the modeling, right? And so it's not just about the industry, it's about what that artist is proliferating
Right.
amongst the community.
Right, and it's really, it's kind of almost to me the desperation of some of these people to put that out. It's like, you know, you can't be desperate. It's like when that's your mindset, that's saying that you're coming from lack and limitation, right? And you're
Not that they're desperate, it's that's the only thing that's gonna get accepted.
well, I mean, it is lack and limitation because you could be doing something else,
Mm-hmm.
and you should be doing
It's a
something else.
constant need to be validated
Right.
by strangers. You know, it's the same with social media.
Mm.
And I worry about it because of the kids.
The
you know?
kids, yeah.
That's all they do all day.
And they start mimicking, as you were saying, they start, you know, we see
They model.
babies doing little dances and twerking and
Mhm.
talking
And
back,
singing
and then they end up on
lyrics.
Jerry Springer. And then, or is that, I don't even know if that's still.
Yeah, they are still on
Are they still
Jerry.
on? That's
Lord,
right.
right.
But you know, it was really,
Horrible.
I mean, and it's really interesting because that is, you know, again, when we talk about, was that, appropriation of culture.
Mhm.
You know, we start dealing with appropriation of culture. Then we get insulted when somebody appropriates our culture and acts a certain way or wears a certain thing or says a certain thing. And then they're getting more likes and
Yeah.
everything than everybody else. And it just becomes this cycle. But it's like we haven't kind of figured out how to kind of keep a cap on things and have a structure around things. And I look at other communities where their norm is, it's like their culture, their community, they keep everybody close, they work together, the adults work together. We just don't have that in the Black community, unfortunately.
We're the only culture that doesn't really know about generational wealth.
That's
See?
very true. Hello.
Oh my God.
A
Hello.
lot of other cultures, they start their kids working with them. You go up to the grocery store, restaurant, local convenience store, and the little child is back there
Mhm.
sweeping or behind the cash register. We teach within our own people, don't hire your friends, don't hire your family. They the worst ones to get involved with. Well, instead, we're supposed to be, trying
each
to
other,
hire
yeah.
our friends, trying to hire our families, trying to build that family company. And because that is what has removed us from being able to have placement and power to begin with, is the fact that we keep going outside of our box and trying to build with others instead of building it
With
our own
ourselves.
house.
But also realize that
Yes.
all of that is fairly recent. We're talking about over the past 30 years, 30 to maybe 40 years. You know, so this is kind of almost like, because there was a time when we had community, you know, there was a time when we worked together, but, you know, also a lot things that have happened, something that has happened is a lot of us are transplants. You know, you're from Louisville, I'm from New York, right? My community is not here, but if I go home to my community, you know, when I reflect on how I was raised, we had community and we had businesses. My neighbors owned a cleaners, you know, and they passed it on to their children, and, you know, but so there was a bit of that dynamic, but it was in pockets. And then when also we think about all those cities that have been destroyed, that are underwater now. I forgot, there's like an insane amount of Black communities that have been submerged underwater in this country that no one talks about. They don't, you know, we're just hearing about, you know, Greenwood and a couple of these other places, but there were places of generational wealth. They've been wiped out and they couldn't recover. And who did that? You know, and then we're always dealing with psychological warfare. We're always dealing with other people coming into our community, ravishing our community, giving us something, saying, hey, this is really cool. Hey, you can make money with this. And playing off of our, again, desperation and mindset of lack and limitation, you know, because it's the easy way out, you know, in a lot of ways, because but it's so systemic. It's the self-esteem that we don't have. It's the confidence we don't have. Just as a people, and some of us have it, yes, and some of us get out, yes.
I also think, I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but as you look generationally, the further our generations get away from sharecropping, get away from, you know, slavery, from Jim Crow laws, it seems that we lose the connectivity that kept us going.
Yes.
We lose that passion for excelling, for supporting each other. And do you think it's that we're just not telling our stories? We're not honoring our heritage? I don't know what that is.
You know what, I think about that often. And what I think about is when the struggle is fresh for people, they're gonna have a different perspective. So when I think of, you know, my mother and, you know, stories of her family, or my father and stories of his family, and, you know, in the country very, very early on, and how they worked and acquired things. And I saw, you know, the standard that they put forth, but then they made it easier for me. So I didn't have to work as hard. They didn't want me to work as hard, but it's like my job was to go to school, right? But then you get these generations, like maybe even a little younger than me, everything was a little easier for them, right? So their parents were just like, they're really proud that, oh, I could do all this for my kids. But then the kids sometimes they miss that area of application of, you know, I need you have a responsibility as a child. Because I always tell my child, I was like, look, you have a responsibility. You walk out of this door, you represent me, you represent your family. And you have to keep that in mind. So if you're going to, you know, you're going to act up, we're going to have a problem with that. I'm going to have a problem, huge problem with that. But at the same time, there is an expectation. And it may not be like, you know, going to college right away or whatever, but you got to do well. If you're not going to go to school, I need you to have a hustle on. Right. I need you to understand what the hustle is. You know, so a lot of us, we weren't taught that. We weren't taught an ethic, and you know, and we see these images and we want this life that is an image. It's not even real. It's not even real. You know, and we're not looking at other cultures that were able to amass wealth. There are other cultures that came to this country with nothing. And there's still people coming to this country with nothing and working really hard to build and moving leaps and bounds because they're looking at opportunity. There are jobs that we won't do as Black people that other cultures will do gladly. And within a year, just, you know, they're all buying their homes.
And
You know,
working
get-
together. and
working
being
together. I had a housekeeper once, and I was like, her car is flyer than mine.
You're so sweet, Sharon.
I was like, wow.
Yeah, when I was growing up, because I lived around predominantly Hispanic, areas, and I was always like, wow, they can all live together in a house and, work together, put their money together, and before you know it, somebody else has moved out and they've got a house,
Right.
and those people that were sharing a house are now split, and they just take turns until they all can make it. And I'm like,
Right,
why can't we do that?
right. Or they're buying property together.
Yeah.
They're buying
Because we
property
weren't
together.
reared that way. You know what
Right,
I'm saying? At least in my opinion,
right.
culturally,
Culturally.
our culture was destroyed, right? And we were force fed the slave
Mm.
masters culture, right? Which didn't support any bonding, any supporting. It was systematic. It still is to
Mhm.
keep you locked up here, right?
Right.
So you can't go anywhere else. So interesting. My sister and I, we got married within 6 months of each other, right? And so our plan, and when we figured out what we're doing, is that the four of us are going to live together,
Mhm.
and we're going to save our money, and we're going to buy a house, each of us.
Mhm.
Do you know how much ridicule we got
Yeah.
Mhm.
Isn't that
for
crazy?
living together?
You guys live
From
together?
our own
Oh my God.
family members.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dumbasses. But just
But because we're not culturally, we don't
Yeah.
think that way
Yeah.
as a
Right.
people.
Yeah.
We just don't.
Even with our children, because I think about, I always heard, once you hit a certain age, you're getting out of here. And
Mhm.
it's like, that's not really smart.
No.
'Cause I don't know about
At
credit.
18, you're
I'm
just
like,
gone.
Yeah,
18,
there's
no.
a lot that I don't
Right.
know. And if I
Right.
stayed here, I could
Right.
learn.
Help me.
But that's the European component.
Mhm.
Right.
When you look at African culture, right?
If
Oh,
the
there's
family
extended
stays
family.
together,
Ethiopians,
right.
we just build and build
Build
and
and
build
build,
on
right.
everything we have.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly.
Heaven, what do you think about that when you think of generational wealth and where we are as a people and the state of Blackness right now?
I think that in this system that we're living in, I yield all certain answers to the one that created the answer to the questions. Okay, the problems that's there. So these are things that are out of my control. So I have a much different response than what most probably will go to. I think that again, everything that we're faced with, a lot of the questions, the changes that we see are part of the process, the spiritual process of what's going on in a realm that is beyond our control. That's what I think personally. Now, some people they don't have those same beliefs. But now from a physical standpoint, and I think that's one thing about my book. I use my life story to kind of bring out the seven deadly sins, as a reality versus spirituality type of standpoint. So when you talk about, what's going on now in terms of generational wealth, you have to understand that this system is being cultivated. It was designed for confusion to begin with. Okay. So in order to have confusion, you have to have those who are superior, and then you have to have those who are not. You have to have those that they thrive off of. That is a mechanism that is beyond our reach of controlling. That is something I think we in our daily prayer, we say, God, let your will come and let your will take place. We leave it, and we leave it there. Because there's only a certain level that I think that we're going to be able to get to in order to bring about a substantial change. I don't think we're going to see perfection no time soon. So I think we have to think about what can I do individually in order to make this route better for me. And I think in terms of generational wealth, having an understanding of how to get first of all, what is wealth? Okay. Are you talking about having $1 million in savings? Are you talking about having $10 million in savings, $20 million in savings? At what point do you feel that you have enough money to retire? Because when I come from, retirement services, I pay attention to the fact that these dollars that we go to war over, Could somebody tell me the value of $1, the buying power of $1 now compared to what the buying power of $1 was 40 years ago? You see, you're dealing with deflating fiat. First of all, you're dealing with talking about having wealth in an area where there's actually no wealth there at all. I think it was Robert Kiyosaki said savings accounts is for fools. And it's because if you go into what's actually wealth, you're going to find that US dollars ain't even on the radar, right? So now if you're talking about having something to pass down generational, well, even if I gift you $1 million today, Jackie, that's not enough money for you to be able to take into retirement, depending on your lifestyle, and it damn sure ain't enough for you to pass on to your kids unless you do something with that $1 million. And the problem is that we're so far uneducated about how to get to accurate wealth that we're just spinning our wheels. We're out here chasing dollars that ain't even worth a dollar. The US dollar bill has lost 97% of its buying power. What is the inflation rate versus the interest that you're making off of the money that's inside of your savings account? What is that rate going to be when it's time for you to retire? And did that $1 million you thought you had in your piggy bank, is that going to suffice for paying bills at the rate of what it's going to cost another 20 or 30 years from now? You see, we don't take time to look into real wealth. What outpaces inflation? It ain't the US dollar bill. So the moment that we quit looking at smoke and mirrors, right, and get down to real answers and what people who are actually truthfully successful are doing, then we can begin to cultivate a way to get out of it. I think that intentionally we are being taken away from our generational wealth, and it's being done, and an attack is happening from many different directions. It's starting from a very ground base, from the education that we get from the moment that we enter into the school systems to every system that is out there around us as we become an adult. And if we don't learn how to dig just a little bit deeper, then we're just simply going to continue to pay on into the system. And some people are okay with that if they could pull a decent car out of it. Young people nowadays don't think about nothing that's going on in their future no more than what's getting ready to happen within the next 10 minutes. And the music reflects it, okay? They tell you, pull up, girl, bend over, drop it, and do something. You ain't even gonna give me no flowers. I can't even go out to eat no more. You just gonna tell me to pull up and drop it? And that's it. I mean, we can't even think past the next 10 minutes to start thinking about what we're going to do in order to retire, or how my kids are going to survive. They're not thinking about the system and the times in which we're dealing with. They're not looking at the politics and the rapidness of something that's going on. No, it's what's happening right now, dog.
I know.
Right now, dog. You know, and
crazy.
that's it. You know, so I think that we have, not because we wanted to. I think, you know, you had your Black Wall Streets, you had people on in with the right idea, but I think that the thing that we forget is that there's higher powers.
Yes.
Okay.
And speaking of those higher powers, Miss Lovely Heaven Gilmore, ladies and gentlemen, look at our time. We've neared the end of our broadcast tonight of the podcast, guys. I had an amazingly exciting time. What about you all tonight?
Oh
Yeah.
my God, this is so wonderful. I don't want it to end.
I know. I love when you say that. Miss Heaven Gilmore, are you going to come back and hang out with us again, Queen?
You know, I got for you, of course, Miss Jackie. Yeah, I told you the truth in the beginning. Now, you guys, you'll see me and you be like a thief in the night.
No, I'm coming out there. I'm coming your way, girl. I'm gonna be at one of them concerts. You ain't getting here to be that fast.
Come on out. But yes, I'd love to come back, especially when we drop the new release, you guys. So that'd be awesome. And we dropping it hot.
Of course. Sharon, are you going to come back and hang out with us, gorgeous?
Anytime.
'Cause
I
you
wanna
know-
come back. I want to talk about my book. when I come
We're
back.
going to talk all about it. It's going to be all about you. I promise. I promise. What about you? Are you going to come back, Mr. Bridges?
Of course.
And Miss Chloe, I just have to demand it, darling.
I
You
have
know,
to come back.
yes, because as heaven says, you just got to go for yours, and I'm going for mine. So you got to come back and hang out with us. How about that?
And we have to talk with sorry, Jeff.
You're all over the
Oh
place.
my God.
I know, Jordan.
Jordan, I'm so sorry.
No
We
worries.
have to talk with Jordan about a script.
That part.
That part.
Oh, I can
Jordan,
just see it
Jordan.
one with it. Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have had an amazing time here on the Poetry of Justice show with Jackie Ray Phillips and Lori G. Ladies and gentlemen, on yikesradio.com and acceleratedradio.net. You can catch us here each and every Saturday night, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. That's PST, and that's 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock on the East Coast, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you so much for hanging with us. I
Yes.
adore you, and thank you for your time, because that's the one thing we can never get back. So blessings and have a good night.
I'm going home with nice.
Yes.
Bless you,
Thank
heaven. Love you.
Oh,
Thank
That
you.
was awesome.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. I hope I get a chance